Hi there folks, welcome to the video. This is Hardly Gaming, and today we're going to be looking at a slightly new tweak on my Shaman build. So I have named this build the Netflix and Chill build for two reasons. One, it's a very cold based heavy build, so chill. But also, I was sitting there watching Netflix when I was making it. And I realised after about 2 hours of watching Rick and Morty and playing the game that I'd done about 40 echoes and had barely needed to pay attention to the game. So this build is designed for speedrunning through echoes, farming resources. I wouldn't say this is going to be a good build for very high-end content, but I have taken this to over 100, wave 100 in the survival mode, and I'm currently working my way through the level 90 echoes without much difficulty. So it's a pretty good build. It's got a long way to go. I do definitely need to get better gear, and my resistances are quite low. Though using like your totem resistances you get from that, it kind of offsets it. So first things first, let's just jump into the skills. So the skills I'm going to be using are Maelstrom, the Storm Totem, Tempest Strike, Avalanche, and Ice Thorns. Now some of you will recognise that some of this is quite similar to Boardman's build. Some of it was influenced from that. The Tempest Strike, the Maelstrom and the Ice Thorns are both going to be instant cast abilities that you're going to have on at all times, and I will tell you how to do that. And your Tempest Strike is going to be generally used for regaining mana, and your Storm Totem is going to be where your big AoE damage is from. Now, I like to use Avalanche as my single target damage. So this is what I dump on an enemy boss and then just keep moving basically and stay alive until the boss is dead. You're not going to kill bosses in seconds. This is much more of kind of, you can run through a map in about 2 minutes, clearing all the ads. You don't even need to stop, and then it might take another minute or so to kill the boss. And that's why I said I just need to work on getting some better gear, just to kind of shorten that time. So let's just jump into what I've got here. So, now I have gone down to get the cold damage. So you get Arctic Chill here. 2 points in that, 2 points in Arctic Blast, which gets up to 1 point in Sudden Gale. Now, this is pretty heavy mana cost build, so I would highly recommend getting all your points into Calm, which vastly reduces the mana cost of the Maelstrom. The next couple of points you're going to be doing is 3 points into Whirlpool, 1 point into Power of Storm, and 1 point into Energized. What this does is whilst you have 6 more stacks, you strike a nearby enemy with lightning every second. And that increases it so you can get 2 enemies. So you're always going to be having 6 stacks. So it's just 3 damage, a lot more lightning. I've also gone up and got 4 points into Turbulence, which does increase the mana cost, but it also increases the damage. Put 1 point into Windswept, so you always have haste active. This is where the speed clearing comes from. And then I had 1 point spare, so I put it into Wind Fury, although you could put it into Energize if you want. I think 1 point to get Frenzy, which gives you 20% faster cast and attack speed, which for this build is actually quite nice. Basically, you don't need to stay still as long to cast your totem. It's not a lot, but considering how much time you do over the mission, can add up. Over a whole night, you can probably save 10 minutes of casting animations. Every little helps, So that is a Maelstrom. Jumping into the next ability here, we've got the Storm Totem. Now, this is your big damaging ability here. So you want maximum cast speed for your totem. You want maximum area of effect. And then what I've done, I put 1 point into Direct Current to unlock the Blizzard. So it's now a cold ability as well. So your any enemies around it can get chilled, which is handy. I've then also gone out to the left here. So I've put 3 points into Static Field, 1 point into High Voltage, and 1 point into Overstimulation. So basically, enemies that are hit by it have a 20% reduced on speed. So that is actually really beneficial considering how much area of effect you're doing here. I've then put 1 point into Storm Rider, which gives you 3 points into Grounding Conduit. You deal increased lightning damage if a Storm Totem has shocked an enemy recently. You're going to be shocking quite a lot of enemies, so you're pretty much always going to have this active. If you really wanted to, and I might play about with it, I might just put all the points into Storm Rider and just have it as a pure speed based ability. So basically you have increased movement speed, so that can go up to extra 40% movement speed. Now you're going to be having a lot of movement speed anyway. You could probably get close to 90% or more movement speed pretty much at all times if you had this active with haste as well from Maelstrom. So it's it's good for speed. So I might play about with this, but I am still kind of testing this. I've been using it for a couple of days, and 45% damage is nice, but it's not a huge buff. So I might go to that. We'll see. Next ability is a Tempest Strike. We're going all out to the left here, so we're going to put 4 points into Static. You're going to put 2 points into With the Wind, 1 point into Tempestuous, and 1 point into Mute the Earth. Then you're going to put 1 point into Storm Strike, 3 points into Lightning Can Strike Twice, 1 point into Storm Lord, 1 point into Charge Stone, and 1 point into Deadwind. And the last 5 points all go into Unspent Power. So basically when you hit an enemy, you get 20 mana back. It can be quite handy, especially if the enemy's like a boss and it's focused on maybe attacking your totem. You can just run in behind and hit it in the back a couple of times, and it kind of helps offset the mana. I will say this build is quite mana heavy, so you are going to need quite a lot of mana regeneration or load onto your items. I could still do with more. There are still sometimes in missions I want to get to the point where I don't have to rely on Tempest Strike, especially during boss fights, because when it comes to boss fights, I don't want to get close to the bosses. Unless, of course, they've got one of those stupid AoEs where I have to get close to survive. So, ultimately, I want to not rely on Tempest Strike. I will always have it equipped, but I don't want to have to rely on it. The next ability is the Avalanche. Now, this is all single target. So, I put on 3 points into Dead of Winter, which gets up to 1 point into Frost. So, it's now an entirely cold-based ability. And you also get a chance to freeze enemies, which is always handy. I put 3 points into Harsh Winter, 3 points into Grounding, and 1 point into Storm Slide. So whilst in range of a Storm Totem, Avalanche hits deal additional base lightning damage. So that's base damage that everything is then multiplied onto. So it's a huge damage buff overall if you have both your Storm Totem and your Avalanche active, which you should do when you're attacking bosses. And then you want to put 1 point into Mountain Peak, 1 point into Precision, 1 point into Wild Path. I put 4 points into Naturally Occurring, just to reduce the mana cost, and then I had 2 points left. I put it into Unyield the Storm, just to give me a little bit extra duration. You could probably put 4 into here and 2 into here if you want. I probably will if I ever once I get some better gear and get some more mana regeneration. But as it is, I wanted my abilities as cheap as possible. The last ability we're going to be using is the Ice Fawns. Now what I've done here, you want to put 1 point into Emblem of Might. This now is a 0 cost ability. As long as you have a two-handed weapon equipped, your staff does count as a two-handed weapon. You want to put 1 point into the one I can't pronounce. Animphily? I don't know. That one. 1 point into Fawn Shield. You want to put 4 points into Bulb Shield. 1 point into Second Nature, and 6 points into Flooded. These words, man, these names. Tide. This one here. Basically, this gives you 30% extra critical strike avoidance, which is really handy. With this active, I'm at over 100%. Without it, I'm not, so I need to have this active. I have also put 2 points into Cold Prison, so you can get 4 points into Forward Heart. So this gives you 25% cold damage and 40% freeze rate multiplier per stack. So you get 100% extra cold damage when this is fully active, which it will be at all times because you're going to have it on as an auto cast ability. So that's your skill there, guys. Quite simple. The way I've set them up here, so just my two abilities here that are going to be auto casting. My big single target damage, and then just my Storm Totem there, which I can put out easily. Now going into the passive abilities, we have 21 points in Primalist. So I put 8 points into Natural Attunement, 6 points into Wisdom of the Wild, 2 points into Hunter's Restoration, and 5 points into Hunter's Emanation. The reason I like this is essentially every time I proc this, now it does say your next hit. I'm pretty sure your hits do not include damage over time on minions. Okay, I've got to actually hit them. But the simplified is, there's not really anything else here that I'd want to put points into, because you have to put points down here. So I put them in there, and as long as I can hit something a couple of times, my minions do more damage, including my totem. Now when it comes to Shaman, this is where your big abilities come from. So I've got 75 points into Shaman so far. This is where all the rest of my points will go. I've put 8 points into Shamanic Infusion. I have put 6 points into Agent Stones. My last 2 points will go into this as well. The reason I like this is it's increased damage and increased minion damage. It's not increased lightning damage or increased storm damage, it's increased damage. everything is increased. All your abilities, physical damage, cold damage, lightning damage, your minion damage, everything is increased by 40%. It's actually a massive buff. So my next 2 points will go into that. I've also put 2 points into each Windbringer and Stormbringer, and then 5 points into each Shattered Heavens and Avatar Thunder, just to max out your lightning and your cold base damage. I then put 8 points into Earthrend Supremacy, just to try and get as much attunement as possible, and a stun avoidance and increased stun chance is always handy. I put 5 points into Ancestral Speed to vastly increase my totem cast speed, and you also get a wee chance of casting haste when you use a totem. And haste does kind of stack on itself as well, so you can cast haste. If you have haste active already, you get extra speed on top of it. I put 8 points into Rune of Awe, which gives you adaptive spell damage and minion adaptive spell damage, and I've mentioned it before, adaptive spell damage is fantastic. It's essentially base damage for all spells, so cold and lightning and physical spells will all benefit from it. I put 1 point into Herot's Path, just so I can then unlock Eternal Storm, and I put 4 points into this. When you kill a frozen enemy, a random totem, the only totem I have, has its duration refreshed and its damage permanently increased. So you can have this out, and as long as you keep consistently killing frozen enemies, you will have your totem active at all times and at 100% damage. And then put 8 points into Elemental Shrines, which again increases your attunement, but also, very importantly, increases your mana regen by 16%. I put 5 points into Lagon's Answer, so your spells have a chance to cast lightning at the target location, and then 8 points into Conflux. Lightning strikes cast by the Thunder Strike, Lagon's Answer, and Lagon's Wrath nodes deal more damage multiplicative with other modifiers. So, lots and lots of damage coming down now. My last 6 points I've put into Druid here, put it down into Blood Claws. So what this does is physical damage leached as health, 12%, and a little bit extra physical penetration. The physical damage leached as health is very strong because all these abilities count, these two, no, that's still okay. So I've only got one physical ability here, but it's more than enough to keep my health active. I've kind of been playing about with this, so because I don't know if there's that much of a difference when I take it off. But the build is still a slight work in progress. I'm 95% happy with where everything is, but I might take this off and put it elsewhere and test it. We'll have to see. So that's the abilities, guys. Now, looking at the character sheet here, it does not look like I'm doing a huge amount here. My resistances are pretty rubbish. They're not brilliant, especially fire, but I have managed to work on getting like my physical up high. My void is not doing too bad, and my defense is not good. You're 71%. That doesn't look good at all. Now, however, when we're going into the autocasting, now the way we autocast, I'll run you guys quickly through it. You want to go into your settings. You want to go change input keys. You've got your use abilities here, 1, 2, 3, 4. Now what I've done is I put them in as 1, 2, 3, 4 on your number pad. So not up in the top of the keyboard, not below like F1, F2, down on the bottom right in the number pad. You want to put these in as whatever you want, but I put it in as 1, 2, 3, 4 just to make it easier for me. Once that's done, press done, come out, and then what you do is you press in the key that you want to have as an autocast. So for me, 2, 3, and then you press the number key, the number lock with your other key, your other hand, sorry. So now my abilities, as you can see, are all casting. As you can also see, my Maelstrom is now up at the 6 to 7 stacks. My Iceform, my Forward Heart, is up at 4 stacks. I have Haste active, and I have Fury active. So I now have increased movement speed, I have increased attack and cast speed, I have increased cold damage, and I have Maelstrom, which gives me a bunch of extra stuff, doesn't it? Yeah. So, yeah, very good. And that also, like, that, I don't know why I had to, oh, okay, sometimes you get more, but generally the minimum critical strike avoidance I'm going to have is 131%. Or 101, 131, 161, I think it depends on how much stacks you have active. And when I put a totem down, my resistances should go up as well. So it's still looking a little weak, but it's still not, it's much better than active, and much better than before, sorry. And because I have a totem down at all times, this should stay active at all times. So that is that, guys. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to finish these abilities. I do it just by basically clicking off the screen. Just a wee warning for you guys. If you are using auto-casting abilities and you say, for instance, you have Netflix open or Facebook or something and you click on your other monitor, it will stop auto-casting, or at least it does for me. Make sure that when you go back in, you quickly recast your auto-casting abilities, otherwise you'll forget and die, which I've done more times than I'd like to mention. So going into your gear, guys. When it comes to your gear, you're looking for... I put on some resistances onto here just to kind of help me a little bit at the moment. But you should be... The primary one you're looking for is cast speed for totems and increased spell damage. So I put physical resist, poison resist, and then I put on here light damage, leached as health and hit, increased spell damage if I have an active totem, and then increased cast speed and increased spell damage. I haven't had much good luck with my relics. I haven't got any ones that I'm really quite happy with, but it's just a matter of time. I'll keep farming and I will get better ones than these. But also, these are the ones you're kind of looking for. When it comes to your ability, your item, I have put on the Horned Cow to give me a big health buff there, 3.4% of damage leached as health. I've also rolled onto a 7 attunement, increased minion health, increased lightning damage and minion damage, and extra armor and minion armor. As you can see, I do have quite a few purple items here, sorry. My necklace is going to be a turquoise. Try and get turquoise. Turquoise is pretty much a must-have. You get turquoise necklace and turquoise rings, so you can get a huge increase to increased minion damage and critical strike chance. With this, I have increased spell damage, increased elemental damage, void resistance, and increased minion damage. My staff is a Oracle staff, which gives me 100% extra adaptive spell damage, a little bit less mana cost for my abilities. I've also rolled on to increased minion spell damage, increased lightning damage, freeze rate multiply, which is handy for a cold based build, and a chance to shock on hit, which is always handy. My chest piece here, my chest changes day to day. I have a couple of really nice chest pieces and I've been kind of testing which one's better, but I'm kind of staying in this one just because of the vitality, because of the health buff it gives me. So it is a shamanic garb, so it gives me increased minion damage again. It gives me a huge chunk of vitality, a little bit of attunement, adapt the spell damage for my totem, which is very important, and a bit more armor for me and my minion as well. My rings are both turquoise. They both increase my critical strike chance, attunement, critical strike avoidance, and increase minion damage. And I believe this one's similar: increased lightning damage, increased elemental damage, critical strike avoidance, and elemental resist. And my belt is another purple item. It is a noble sash. I'd probably want to get the one with armor. If I was to be honest, I'd probably want to get an extra 100 armor. But this one gives me, as you can see, increased armor, minion health, increased minion damage, and critical strike avoidance. When it comes to my gloves, I have engraved gauntlets to give me that extra physical resistance. I am looking for a set of these that I can roll up with 20% with physical resist. Although these are the best ones I have currently. They give me minion health, attunement, mana regeneration, very important for this build, and increased health regeneration, which is always handy. My shoes, my boots, are the transient rest. Now I actually think these are probably the best unique in the game, because these are the only ones I think really do help end game players. I've actually got quite a few sets of these now. I whenever you find them, guys, keep them, because you can use them for different characters. So these give you 50% of your current mana gained as ward when you stop moving, which is really, really handy for like my mage build. Not so much for him, but it's actually, it's a couple hundred ward every few seconds. That's not bad. It gives me a huge chunk of physical, poison, and necrotic resistance, and also 27% extra movement speed. These are by far the best option, I think, best unique in the game. And I would highly recommend trying to get them. As I said, they're not that rare. I've maybe found about 5 or 6 of them in my playtime, so they're not overly rare. I have them in this character, I have them on my mage, and I've got about 2 or 3 more pairs sitting on my stash waiting if I want to put them on other characters. But yeah, these are brilliant. I would highly recommend looking for these things. And then lastly, I have one more purple item as my relic down here. It's a stained tomb, gives me extra health. I do get a little bit less of a health regen. It's not a huge issue when you look at the stat. So I get extra vitality, extra attunement, huge chunk of extra health regen, and extra mana regeneration. That is why, as you saw there, I can have both of these casting, and you can see my mana just going straight back up. If I'm spamming my totem too much, I can start losing mana. If I'm spamming my avalanche too much, I can definitely start losing mana. So that's why you do have to run in sometimes and just hit them with your at. I am looking for more mana regeneration. I believe, yeah, I could do with one more ring, because mana regeneration goes onto your gloves and your rings. You could effectively have, I think it's just those three. Oop. Have a look. So they can go onto rings, relic, and gloves. So you could effectively have 4 items, all with mana regeneration, plus what you get your passive. You could quite comfortably be able to spam all your abilities, and that's kind of the next what I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do here, guys, I'm just going to jump into a mission, and we're going to run through it, and we'll come out the other end, hopefully. Now, as you can see, I am quite far on. These are level 90 echoes. So I'm just going to go for this one here. Right. Yeah, you will see some strange colours. I have put some quite not advanced, but quite strict loot multiplier and loot filters for this guy. So I'm looking for turquoise with perfect stats. That's only 13 and 15, so that's not going to be perfect at all. For them it's 35 and 35, so that's quite a bit far off. These enemies have quite a lot of health, to be honest. 62% extra health. 52%, yeah, these enemies have 140, 130% extra health. And the fact is I'm still chewing through them quite quickly here. And with the haste I'm getting here, all you need to basically do is keep moving. Use your speed to avoid enemy AoEs and hits and stuff like that. Which can be really dodgy actually if you get stuck somewhere, because I do have a large amount of health regen and life leech, but this build cannot take much damage. Because ultimately I have no ward, my armor is quite low, my resistances aren't fully capped. You do have to be careful. Ultimately I do want to get max resistances and everything sorted, but just need to keep working on that, guys. I like to clear out the area first before I activate them, because there's nothing worse than getting swamped. You can see here how much damage this thing can do though. And it only struggles, I'd say, against like the end echo bosses. So like it took me a couple of attempts to finish Lagon just because he'd like instantly hit me with his abilities. It was quite annoying. So there we go, guys. Gotta make sure the area is clear. You'd have thought with 235% extra item rarity, I'd get something decent. That's what I've already got. As I said, these boots are probably the best unique in the game, but there's so many uniques that are just useless. They've done the same thing where a rare item will always be better, pretty much in almost every situation, than a unique, apart from those boots. I'm only kind of staying on because there wasn't much shown now. I just ran straight to the point, killing everything. So I'm just kind of finishing up, running about. As I said though, you can see, I mean, I'm doing these enemies 62% extra increased health and damage. Enemies enrage at half health. Enemies have 82% chance to receive a glancing blow. They shed armor, more health, chance to slow, and no difficulty at all here, guys. Run through it. I'm running through it. 57, 60, between 57 and 67% movement speed. And I said I might play about with actually increasing that even further. So that would actually, that 67, you'd end up with 97% movement speed if you had on. You know what, actually, I might go and try that after I make this video. Might go give that a go. And your Maelstrom is actually quite nice for damage for like low level enemies. You can just run through them, and because it's physical, you get the health back. The thing with the totem is, even though I actually have a huge amount of extra totem health, it does die quite quick. So always pay attention to the top left of the map to make sure that it's actually still active, because you need to have it active at all times. The second it goes down, back off again. Load. The thing is, at this level anyway, sorry, if you start taking hits, most times you're going to be screwed. So you always have to be careful. And that's what I've done. Yep, whole map cleared. Not bad, eh? I really like this build. I really like the way it looks and it feels, and you can just keep running. It's very, very quick for just speed clearing echo after echo after echo on your way up to like fighting a boss. Yeah, I really enjoy this build, and I hope you guys as well do too. But yeah, let me know if you like it. Let me know if you play it. Let me know if you have any advice, or like if you think something might be better, or you know, whatever. Speak to me. Anyway guys, I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.